Hey guys, how's it going? Kermode here. Welcome to another tutorial. In this video, I want to give you guys 5 different techniques you can do with delays. Now I'm going to assume most of you know how to use a delay in a typical way, your typical echo sound, ping pong delay, regular delay, whatever. But there's multiple ways you can use delays in more interesting ways as different effects or just to yield more interesting results. And that's what this video is going to be entirely about. Before we get into the video, I do want to mention this video is sponsored by Odyssey headphones. They create hands down the best headphones I've ever used. I'm wearing a nice, beautiful pair right now. They've become an absolute integral part of my workflow, and I can't recommend them enough. So if you guys want to check them out, head down to the description of this video. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. So the first technique we're going to be taking a look at is pitch shifting delays. So what I mean by this is there's ways that you can use delays where when you adjust the timing, it also changes the pitch of the sound instead of just the timing. Let's check that out. So we have a vocal here.
Magnetic anomaly.
You can do this with several different types of delays. I'm going to start with Ableton's just plain old regular delay here. Now, by default, we're actually in what's known as repitch mode. So what's cool is when you change the timing, you achieve these pitch shifting effects. So check this out. So this is our regular timing of our delay right now.
Magnetic anomaly.
And watch what happens when I scroll through different timings.
Magnetic anomaly.
So as we change the timing to a longer delay, the pitch actually jumped and went slower. Where vice versa, if we go up in speed and we have a quicker delay, the speed goes up. Once again, I'll show you.
Magnetic anomaly.
This is pretty cool and can be used to achieve kind of like pseudo record scratching effects. I wouldn't necessarily call it record scratching effects. To get this style effect, I recommend having feedback off, and for the most fun results, I recommend just going to an unsynchronized time value. Now, I recommend the feedback being off because when the feedback's on, you get this kind of springy,
magnetic anomaly
kind of sound, which we're actually going to come back to in just a second. And when you have time value off, you can do these smooth sweeps between. So check this out. So kind of has like the vibe of when you like push a record forward and back. Again, not quite the same, but if you resample this into a new track and you do this to different audio sources, you can yield some really cool results. To show you what I mean, I have a bass here, and without the delay, it's pretty simple. But when I play with a delay, check this out. So if you resample that, you can get some pretty cool results. I highly recommend it. So I hinted at our next technique just a second ago, and it's what I like to call a tonal delay. And a tonal delay is when you have such a tight time value and high feedback that the gaps between the delays are so fine that it actually starts to create a pitch when you have this repeating value in such a short period of time. So how do we do it? So what you do is you increase the feedback and then you pick different time values. So you're not going to change it or modulate it like we just did with that technique, but we're going to land on a value and keep it. Check this out.
Magnetic anomaly.
Hear how we have this kind of robotic tone going on?
Magnetic anomaly.
Let's try a lower pitch.
Magnetic anomaly.
Let's try a higher pitch.
Magnetic anomaly.
And if we get really low, we kind of get into more spring reverb territory.
Magnetic anomaly.
Now the next technique is really nice for building effect. Now to do this, what you need to do is you need to have the feedback go above 100%. Unfortunately, this delay actually prevents it from happening.
Magnetic anomaly.
We are limited to 95%. So in comes the new delay unit by Ableton called Echo. And you'll notice that with the feedback section here, we can actually go above 100%. So what does that do? Let me show you. Instead of the feedback slowly fading out over time, it's actually only going to increase in volume over time. Now, thankfully, Ableton's echo actually has a limit to how loud it can go, so you can hear it kind of distorts within the unit. It never exceeds a certain amount. Be careful, not all delay units are like this. Thankfully, Ableton's echo is kind of made for this. You get these really cool, I believe it's supposed to be emulating tape, this sort of endless tape distortion that just keeps building and building in upon itself. Now, how is this useful? First of all, it is just kind of a cool effect unto itself to have something echo to the point of distortion, and then all you have to do is automate down the feedback value to stop it, or automate the device on and off to stop it. What else can you do with it? Well, let's say I create some sort of sequence where this thing progressively gets louder and then suddenly dies off and decays. So let's do something like this.
Magnetic anomaly.
So let's say we create a sequence like that. Now watch what happens when I freeze it and I flatten it. So we have it as a single piece of audio. And then let's automate this. Imagine this was a build-up in a song where you have like this lyric continue to echo and echo and echo and get louder. And then partway through, what you could do is you could actually start to have it go up in pitch. So let's say by the end here, we actually go up an octave. Let's pick a different warp mode. And let's check this out.
Magnetic anomaly.
Obviously, you can do a lot more with it and be a bit more strategic with it, but that's just kind of the idea. You have these endless tails that build on each other and create just really cool distortion and just messed up sounds that you can't really do with all delays, and a lot of people don't think to do. They just hear it continuously feedback on itself and they're like, feedback, and they turn it off. But you can actually yield this for some really cool effects. So I recommend doing that. Try putting feedback above 100. Now the next technique I think Haas to be said, and that's the Haas Effect. Now, for those that don't know what the Haas Effect is, you can do this several different ways. I like to do it with a delay, where you create what's known as an interaural time difference in a sound to give it a wide effect. What does that mean? What's an interaural time difference? Well, one of the ways our ears perceive width and placement in a room is the difference of time in which something arrives at your ear. Let's say hypothetically someone was talking at me from over here and I was facing this way. Well, this ear is going to receive that sound before this ear does, and it allows me to A, kind of perceive it in space, and B, it gives it this sense of width, this stereo field. It's not just a mono sound, which is pretty rare in nature, actually, for anything to be completely mono. I can't even imagine when that would happen. So let's say hypothetically we do have this completely mono vocal right here.
Magnetic anomaly.
And we wanted to create this interaural time difference. Well, it's actually quite simple with a delay unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a delay, and I'm going to set the wet value to be 100%. This way there isn't some sort of dry signal that still is mono and occurs, although you could blend that. But what we're going to do is we're going to create just a left and a right channel, and if we set this to time value, and most importantly we click this unlink value, we can have different values for the different ears. And when you have a difference of 1 millisecond, which we're going to call the arriving immediately on time version, and one other time that is between that 1 and 40 milliseconds approximately, that's when you get this sort of Haas Effect sound. So let's set this one to 1, so that's the one that arrives first, and let's set another one to 40 milliseconds.
Magnetic anomaly. Magnetic anomaly.
Now you really don't want any feedback.
Magnetic anomaly.
And you can hear 40 is a bit much. I personally don't really go above 25. You have to really play with each sound though.
Magnetic anomaly.
And you guys can really start to hear that. Whereas one sound arrives slightly different than the other, we perceive it as being much wider.
Magnetic anomaly.
Now, if you want to blend it with a dry signal, you can't just bring down the wet from here, because right now this one's sitting at 1 millisecond. So there's going to be one that's only 1 millisecond off from the dry signal, which is going to cause kind of a mess. So you want this other one to also be within that 40 millisecond range.
Magnetic anomaly.
And then you can have multiple ones going, and you almost get into this kind of chorusy type of range.
Magnetic anomaly.
My recommendation, though, for the purest form is to have a full wet value, one at 1 millisecond, which is supposed to essentially be your original. And if you want it to land exactly when the original did, you can even open up this delay section in Ableton with this D down here, and you can set it to -1, so it's starting 1 millisecond back, but then this one's delayed 1 millisecond, so everything is locked into place like it was meant to be. And then this one we can set as the interoral time difference.
Magnetic anomaly.
So that's a pretty popular technique known as the Haas Effect, and it's really cool for adding width to a sound. Now the last technique is a lot less of an effect, and it's just a way you can get more mileage out of delays. What do I mean by that? So I'm going to shorten this so we actually just have one word to make it a lot easier.
Anomaly.
And let's add a delay on here.
Anomaly.
Now, with Ableton's delay, for example, we're very limited in what sort of grooves we can achieve.
Anomaly. Anomaly. Anomaly.
Everything's just an increasing time value of a 16th note. 1/16th note, 3, 5, 16, etc. What if you want to get more interesting grooves? Well, what I recommend doing is doing what I call a delay sequence, where one delay goes into another delay, potentially goes into another delay, and you can get much more unique sounds. The best way for this to work, in my opinion, is to start with the quicker delays and end up with the longer delays. So let's have this first one here. And I'm even going to unlink this for more interest. Let's have the first one be 3/16 notes and 2.
Anomaly.
Pretty cool. Let's have this next one be 5/16 notes and 4.
Anomaly.
And let's shorten this one's feedback. So this first one's going to actually happen a lot quicker.
Anomaly.
So it's gone pretty quickly. Let's go even faster.
Anomaly.
And then this one grabs onto that and repeats it.
Anomaly.
You can hear there's some interesting grooves in there. And if you want, you can keep that going. And I recommend just testing out different combinations of grooves and see what you achieve.
Anomaly.
Like that one has a really nice feel to it.
Anomaly.
Let's add a click to that. And let's actually increase this one's feedback.
Anomaly.
That's really cool. And if I wanted to, you can even add more in there. You could add another delay in there. This one could have a whole other set of grooves going on. Just be careful, it very quickly becomes delay soup. So I wouldn't go too overboard. That's why I kind of said 3 is sort of the maximum you want to go for. But really just experiment with grooves, see what you get, and you never know, you can yield some pretty cool results. And I find this just gets way more mileage out of delays than you normally would, and just creates really cool rhythmic patterns. So there we go, guys. That was 5 different techniques you can use to get more out of your delays. I hope you guys liked it. Once again, my name's Kermode, and I'll be back soon with another tutorial. Peace.